I had intended to record this while I, on my phone, stood at the ironing board, but I actually didn't get time this morning to do it. So if you can try and imagine that I'm stood at an ironing board, you won't actually see the ironing board, you'll see me, you know, just sort of doing something. And I'm trying to make it. Hello, Sally.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
Try to imagine I'm at an ironing board is what I'm saying, which is a bit odd, but hey, so bear with me, everybody. And we will, we'll see. Yeah, you're going to have to mute yourselves. I can't mute
Right,
you.
mute ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, here goes. Hi, I hope you don't mind me doing my ironing. I think I'm the only person on the planet who actually enjoys ironing. It's a nice warm job and I can look out of the window at the birds. And next door's cat. Oh, it's all right. The bird got away. So I like doing the ironing because I can think, I can pray, and I can think. And I have some really good thoughts when I'm ironing. What I've been thinking about today has been my Bible study for the day. It was really good. Listen to this. Well, I found it quite challenging actually, which is why I'm thinking about it. It's from 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 to 12. Wives. In the same way, you wives must accept the authority of your husbands. Then, even if some refuse to obey the good news, your godly lives will speak to them without any words. They will be won over by observing your pure and reverent lives. Don't be concerned about the outward beauty of fancy hairstyles, expensive jewellery, or beautiful clothes. You should clothe yourselves instead with the beauty that comes from within, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so precious to God. This is how the holy women of old made themselves beautiful. They put their trust in God and accepted the authority of their husbands. For instance, Sarah obeyed her husband, Abraham, and called him her master. You are her daughters when you do what is right without fear or what your husbands might do. Husbands. In the same way, you husbands must give honour to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding as you live together. She may be weaker than you are, but she is your equal partner in God's gift of new life. Treat her as you should do, so your prayers will not be hindered. All Christians. Finally, all of you should be of one mind. Sympathise with each other. Love each other as brothers and sisters. Be tender-hearted and keep a humble attitude. Don't repay evil for evil. Don't retaliate with insults when people insult you. Instead, pay them back with a blessing. That is what God has called you to do, and He will grant you His blessing. For the scriptures say, if you want to enjoy life and see many happy days, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Turn away from evil and do good. Search for peace and work to maintain it. The eyes of the Lord watch over those who do right, and His ears are open to their prayers. But the Lord turns His face against those who do evil. Well, I can hear the squeals of derision and absolute fury from my daughter if I read that to her. Where is the equality in that? Anyway, I delved a bit deeper. I went on, I finished the Bible study. And the writer has to say this. He draws comparisons between Paul and Peter. Paul evangelizing to the Gentiles, Peter to the Jews. Paul stresses absolute equality between men and women. Peter appears to be pandering to the Jewish traditions, putting men above women, and in particular, husbands above their wives. Don't get me wrong. I've got no difficulty with verses 8 to 12 for all Christians. In fact, I think it's fabulous. It's the balance, or rather the lack of it, that really just annoys me. 6 verses devoted to how to be a good and sweet wife. 1 to husbands, and 4 to everyone in general. It just got my goat. But there was one verse, where was it? Yeah, it's the end of the bit about wives. It's verse 6. For instance, Sarah obeyed her husband, Abraham, and called him her master. You are her daughters when you do what is right, without fear of what your husbands might do. Doing what is right, without fear of what your husbands might do. Is that just a little tiny bit of a challenge to Jewish male authority? I actually had a look at some other translations. That was NLT. And in the Good News, it says, you are now her daughters if you do good and are not afraid of anything. That doesn't help us, does it really? The Message says, you'll be true daughters of Sarah if you do the same, unanxious and unintimidated. That's a bit stronger, isn't it? Okay, so then I thought I'd look up the verse in my study Bible. And interestingly, both the NLT and the Life Application Study Bible make the same point. And that is that when this was written, if a man converted to Christianity, his entire household would be expected to join in. His wife, wives, his children, his servants, his slaves, everybody. And the problem arose when a woman, or in particular a wife, found Jesus, but her husband didn't. And that's what he's addressing. So this makes a bit more sense at the very beginning of it as well, doesn't it? Where was that? In the same way, you wives must accept the authority of your husbands. Then even if some refuse to obey the good news, your godly lives will speak to them. Without any words, they will be won over by observing your pure and reverent lives. So if you're a first century Christian and you're a wife, and your husband isn't a Christian, you can evangelize to your husband by being the perfect Jewish wife in every other way. You're still following Jesus, but you're submitting to your husband in everything else. In other words, you're not called upon to rock the marital boat by Bible bashing and trying to convert him actively. You can keep an even keel. You can avoid being beaten into submission or thrown out of the security of the marital home. What's that bit in Matthew? Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. It's beginning to look a bit more like wise advice, isn't it? The advice of a realist and not the rantings of a chauvinist. What's the saying go? Rome wasn't built in a day. We may all be equal in God's eyes, but social change doesn't come overnight. Fighting doesn't always look like a fist either, does it? Still raises my 21st century hackles, I'm afraid to say. It's a bit of a red rag to a bull, or maybe I should say a cow. Wives submitting to their husbands. Submitting. Jesus submitted, didn't he? He submitted to Roman law. He was the Son of God. It had no authority over him. But he went along with it. And he ended up dying for our sins. So submit to your husband, even though you're his equal. Get to keep your faith intact. That's quite a sweet deal compared to going and dying on a cross, isn't it? If Jesus can lay down his life for us, it seems a small price to pay to swallow our pride and take orders from someone else. Husband, boss, politician. But to swallow your pride and keep on going in the hope that they'll be inspired and find Jesus for themselves. I think the ironing board message for me today is to be a bit more humble, less concerned with my rights, more aware of my responsibilities. I need to swallow my pride and walk the walk instead of talking the talk, or at least talk the talk but don't shout the shout. Anyway, it certainly helps to look below the surface, doesn't it? And spend some time with Jesus. Should we say a prayer? Do you want to unmute yourselves? Then you can join in if you want to. Loving Lord, thank you for your word. For its depths, its nuances, its message for today, for every day. Please help us to be slow to anger, to be kind, to go along with people, if at all possible, providing it doesn't compromise our faith in you. Help us to look to our own behaviour first, and that of others second, and to spend time thinking things through with you. Amen.
Your last prayer, Jill, reminded me of